In a quiet barangay in Cebu, a 32-year-old Ukrainian woman named Alina stirs a pot of sinigang, while her Filipino husband slices mangoes for dessert. 2 years ago, she was hiding in a subway station in Kyiv, shielding her 6-year-old son from falling missiles. Today, she's learning Tagalog, wearing flip-flops in a humid sari-sari store, and calling her mother back in Europe to say how safe she finally feels. What brings a woman from a war-torn Eastern European country halfway across the world to a Southeast Asian archipelago? And why are so many Ukrainian women specifically choosing Filipino men to marry since the war in Ukraine began in 2022? A quiet trend has emerged. Ukrainian women are not just fleeing to Europe, but to unexpected places like the Philippines. They're not only seeking safety, they're seeking peace, stability, and something even more powerful: human connection. Many have found that connection with Filipino men. The war in Ukraine changed everything. On February 24, 2022, the first missiles fell. Cities turned to rubble. Homes were lost. Families were torn apart. Nearly 14 million Ukrainians were forced to leave their homes, and the majority of those refugees were women and children. Men between the ages of 18 and 60 were required to stay and fight, leaving women to fend for themselves across unfamiliar borders. Most refugees fled to neighboring countries like Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and Germany. But not all of them found comfort there. Overcrowded shelters, job scarcity, cultural friction, and even cases of mistreatment made some women feel like strangers in hostile lands. Searching for other options, some began looking beyond Europe to places where they might live quietly, affordably, and safely. The Philippines began to appear on their radar through expat forums, travel vlogs, and social media. Ukrainian women started hearing about the warmth of Filipino culture. They saw beaches instead of bomb shelters, smiling faces instead of checkpoints. More importantly, they read about how Filipino men were family-oriented, loyal, and deeply respectful toward women, qualities that mattered more than ever in a post-war world. In Facebook groups, Ukrainian women started sharing stories. One woman said she met a Filipino man through a language exchange app. He was sweet, humble, and made her laugh during some of her darkest days. Another woman shared that her cousin married a Filipino in Davao and now lived near the ocean, where she said she finally felt at peace. The Filipino culture of courtship, or ligo, stood in stark contrast to the often fast-paced and transactional dating culture in the West. Filipino men write letters, send small gifts, and take the time to win a woman's heart. For Ukrainian women coming out of trauma and chaos, this sincerity was a lifeline. Many Filipino men were also surprisingly open to the idea of marriage. In fact, in many parts of the Philippines, especially the provinces, getting married young and staying committed is still the norm. Even though economic conditions in the Philippines are modest, the emotional and cultural compatibility was stronger than expected. The similarities in values made the transition easier. Ukraine is largely Orthodox Christian, while the Philippines is predominantly Catholic. Both cultures emphasize strong family bonds, hospitality, and resilience. While the cuisine and climate might be different, the foundational values were surprisingly aligned. The question remained, how were these women and men meeting in the first place? The answer lies in the digital age. Thousands of couples first connected through apps like HelloTalk and Tandem, which are designed for language exchange, but often lead to deeper conversations. Others met through Christian dating websites, mutual friends, or Facebook groups specifically made for Ukrainians abroad. Video calls turned into virtual dates. Virtual dates turned into plane tickets. The Philippine government allows Ukrainian nationals to enter visa-free for 30 days, with the option to extend. This gave many women the opportunity to explore their new relationships in person before making long-term decisions. Let's meet Irina, a 28-year-old from Kharkiv. After her home was bombed and her brother conscripted into the army, she escaped to Poland and then moved to Vietnam searching for work. While in Hanoi, she joined a Christian women's support group online, where she met Jason, a fisherman from Bohol. He spoke slowly, always asked how her day was, and even learned a few words in Ukrainian to impress her. They married in a small seaside ceremony and now run a tiny canteen by the beach. Another story comes from Nadia, 35-year-old single mother from Lviv. She met Lorenzo, a call center agent from Bacolod, in a Christian Facebook group. They bonded over their love of music and exchanged voice notes for weeks before she decided to visit. Her 2 children now call him Tate. These love stories are far from fairy tales. They are built on trauma, healing, cultural learning, and compromise. Some marriages struggle. Language barriers, lifestyle differences, and misunderstandings are common. But many couples say that mutual respect and the will to grow together keep them going. Still, the path isn't always smooth. Ukrainian women face real challenges when moving to the Philippines. First, there's the climate. The tropical heat, typhoons, and humidity can be overwhelming. Then, there's the language. Although many Filipinos speak English, regional dialects and everyday slang can create confusion. There's also the issue of adjusting to the local food, transportation, and customs. Some Ukrainian women, especially in rural areas, report feeling isolated. Others mention that not everyone is welcoming. A few locals view them with suspicion, questioning their motives or assuming they are only interested in marrying for money. Some Filipino women feel competitive or even resentful, especially when foreign women receive attention. But these issues are often overshadowed by kindness. In most communities, neighbors help teach them local words, share food, and invite them to fiestas. Churches offer support. Online vloggers highlight their stories to encourage acceptance and inclusivity. Many of these women aren't just passing through. They're settling down, contributing to local life, and even helping other Ukrainians do the same. Some are starting small businesses, like in salons. Others are teaching English or offering remote services to clients in Europe, building a life not just for themselves, but for their families and the communities around them. According to data from the Philippine Bureau of Immigration, there was a noticeable increase in Ukrainian nationals applying for long-stay visas in 2023 and 2024. Many listed family, marriage, or residency as their primary reasons, and the impact is starting to show. Barangay halls are hosting cultural orientation sessions. Churches are helping couples with legal paperwork. A few local NGOs are beginning to offer Ukrainian-Filipino cultural integration programs. Even universities are inviting Ukrainian students and providing scholarships for those looking to study while rebuilding their lives. What began as isolated stories of survival has slowly grown into a quiet movement of hope. These women are not just escaping war, they are planting roots. They are rebuilding families. They are creating new identities. It's easy to think of refugees only as victims. But many of these Ukrainian women are proving they are much more than that. They are survivors, lovers, and builders of bridges between worlds. As one Ukrainian woman said while holding her Filipino husband's hand in a small chapel in Cavite, "I lost my country, but I found my home." The story of Ukrainian women in the Philippines is still unfolding. It's filled with beauty and hardship, with misunderstanding and discovery. But one thing is clear: love, when nurtured, knows no borders. In a world fractured by conflict and division, these stories remind us that healing often begins in the most unexpected places, with a kind voice, a shared meal, and the courage to start over.